And welcome everyone to State of the Organization with Growing Home. Today, we're going to begin with our CEO, Karen Fox Elwell. She's going to be giving us a presentation both on our impact in 2020, as well as what we intend to accomplish in 2021 and beyond. From there, we will be sharing, for those of you who joined us for our Strengthen, Nurture, Connect virtual benefit back in the fall, we shared a mission video, and we're going to be sharing that again today. It's such a great example of all the wonderful work that we were able to participate in this last year and that our participants took part in. So we'll be sharing that with all of you again today. And then from there, we will be able to have an opportunity for each of you to dig in a little deeper, both with some of the leaders of our organization, as well as with each other, and be able to connect in community together. From there, we'll come back to the big Zoom room, and we will take an opportunity to answer any additional burning questions you may have, as well as just reflect on the information that we have had the opportunity to hear tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Executive Officer, Karen Fox Elwell, to share our impact.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miranda. And thank you so much to everyone for being here today with us this afternoon to hear about Growing Home and all of the amazing work of this past year and where we are. So as all of you know, 2020 has been quite the unprecedented year and really has been much different than we would have anticipated would have been the case about a year ago. And so it was very unprecedented in terms of the amount of community need that we experienced as an organization, that many of the families that we have historically worked with at Growing Home were some of the first that were impacted by the pandemic and some of the reduction in work hours and furloughs and layoffs that occurred. And so we saw an exponential increase in demand for our services. And that was obviously paired with just the unprecedented nature of the rapidly changing conditions around us, the need to transition to technology in ways that many of us have never had to rely on before. And so it was quite the different year for us. So to get us started, we wanted to start with a quick poll and talking about our impact. Many of you have joined us with different events throughout the year and know that our food access work really has been one of our main areas that we scaled up this year. And so to get kicked off for our State of the Organization, we thought it would be fun to kind of poll you all to see how much food do you think that the organization distributed over the course of the year. And so you should be seeing popping up on your screen a poll of how much you believe that we may have distributed and the equivalent size of rhinos, just to give you a size of the scope of that. And so if you'll go ahead and vote and submit that, then I believe my technology assistants will show those results.
Oh, it looks like we have everyone's results. So
wonderful. So it looks like the majority of people felt that we probably were in the 588,000. We actually distributed over 789,000 pounds of food in 2020. And the reality is that is actually probably a significant underestimation of the amount of food that we distributed to the community. So food access really, as I mentioned, was one of our areas in the organization that we saw a tremendous demand and really recognized early on in the pandemic that we could have a substantial impact and could really scale our operations and fill a need in the community. And so over the course of 2020, we had over 4,000 families that came and received assistance from our food pantry. And one of the real unprecedented things of our food assistance in 2020 is that we actually opened it up to the entire community, recognizing the entire community was facing some unprecedented needs like never before. And it's important to note that this is a 165% increase of unique households that we served from 2019 to 2020, which is a substantial increase. And on a daily basis, we were seeing about 5 to 10 times the amount of families and households than we traditionally had seen in 2019. And this amounted to nearly 14,000 unique visits to our food pantry. Simultaneously, within our strengthening families and within our community is facing substantial challenges to their housing stability and really needing some support in order to be able to keep that roof over their head. And so within our housing stability work at Growing Home, we were able to provide over 150 households rent, mortgage, and utility assistance support. And within that 152 families, we had our newly founded Housing Stability Program, which we launched in March for a 12-month pilot. And we had 65 families who participated in that new wraparound approach to homelessness prevention and housing stability. And of the families that completed that 3-month program with us, 100% of those families remained housed for 3 months following the program completion. And just one story that I'd love to share with all of you about this program and the impact that it had is a mother that we started working with early on in the pandemic that had 2 young children. And early on in the pandemic had her hours at work reduced and found herself really struggling to be able to come up with enough resources to pay her rent that month. She started working with our housing stability coach. And over the course of that 3-month program, not only was she able to have the resources to be able to pay that month and the next month's rent, but she graduated from the program with $4,000 in savings so that she would have the resources in order to weather a crisis like this in the future. Within our Strengthening Families programs, in addition to our food access and housing stability, we also continue to provide all of our other services. Our collaborative coaching, which is a coaching program helping folks move forward on their goals to self-sufficiency and beyond. We served 57 families in that program, and 65% of them made measurable progress forward on their goals to self-sufficiency. And we provided substantial amounts of resource navigation to families to connect them to both Growing Home's resources, as well as a substantial network of community partners that we're connected with in order to connect them to additional resources that Growing Home was not able to provide. So while within our Strengthening Families programs, we continue to provide a lot of our services in person with appropriate protocols in order to ensure safety during COVID, we also had to transition a substantial number of our programs to a virtual format. This was really the case within our Nurturing Children's programs. Specifically within this part of our work, we have our Parents as Teachers home visitation program, which traditionally, as some of you know, is a home visitation program where our parent educators are going into families' homes 1 to 2 times a month and helping provide coaching and supports and ideas to families about how to spur on the development of their children in developmentally appropriate ways. So when the pandemic struck, we recognized that our traditional way of operating the service was not going to work during the pandemic. And so we completely transitioned this program to a virtual format. I'm really proud to announce that we were able to continue to serve over 250 families in this program. And despite this rapid shift to a virtual format, we were able to maintain the high level of quality and impact in this program that we have always been known for with our in-person services. And so as you'll see on my slide, 94% of parents increased their knowledge, and 99% of those parents did demonstrate those developmentally appropriate behaviors for supporting their children. Additionally, we have our Connecting Communities work. And so that is our community organizing and advocacy work, where we're really tapping into the leadership and the resiliency of our community and partnering with them for community level change. This part of our work also had to transition to a virtual format for most of our work. Although as we got farther into the pandemic, we were able to find some additional ways to continue to engage with this community that really was anticipating and really wanting to be in connection with their community in person. And we're able to bring them together in safe ways. One of the things we celebrated in this part of our work was the grand opening of our new community garden, El Jardín de Fe y Esperanza. And in partnership with the City of Westminster, we're able to create a much larger and substantial garden for the community that was able to produce over 400 pounds of produce, and a third of that was donated back to Growing Home to be distributed to the community through our food pantry. In addition to the community garden, we really had strong and consistent participant leadership throughout a variety of ways in the organization throughout the pandemic. Many of our participants continue to be strong volunteers and advocates within our food pantry, and ensured that at this time, when we really needed a lot more volunteers to help with our new ways of distributing food, that they became stalwart supporters and were here almost every day helping us to get that food into the community. Additionally, our participants really stepped up and did a lot of outreach to the community during this time and thinking about how to do it both virtually and in other ways. Our community members did outreach to engage the community in the census to ensure that our community was counted, and that would be taken into consideration. Additionally, our community members did a significant amount of outreach around a federal program called Pandemic EBT, which is an additional governmental resource for food security. And so our participants were trained on how to teach others in the community about how to access this vital support. So all of this impact would not have been possible without the substantial support of our volunteers and our partners and our contributors. So I thought it'd be fun to get all of you to kind of start thinking about, what ballpark do you think that a number of volunteer hours that we had that were contributed at Growing Home in 2020? So go ahead and submit your vote when you get a chance. And as those come through, wonderful. So many of you were correct, that 70% are correct, that we had over 13,000 hours donated and contributed towards our mission at Growing Home. And that is the equivalent of 7 full-time employees, which is so substantial to think about the amount of savings and the amount of time that was invested, the equivalent of 7 full-time employees. Going back to what I was talking about before of our participant leaders, also it's incredible to know that 23% of those hours, those 13,000 hours, were contributed by our program participants themselves. Also, over the course of the year, and many of you likely heard about the significant food drives that we did from our community and our community did for us. And so we were able to raise 50,000 pounds contributed towards our mission from the food drive done by the City of Westminster called the Westie Front Porch Food Drive, a food drive that the City of Thornton did, and a wide variety of other food drives that our other community members and community partners were able to do for us. 2020 was a year of partnership and really a year that we really needed to come together in community with a wide variety of partners in order to help us accomplish our mission. And so here you see just some of the many partners that we partnered with throughout the year. And there are so many more that we couldn't mention on this slide. But partnership really is a part of the core of who we are as an organization. We recognize that we need to bring together our entire community to share in the challenges faced in our community and in coming together for solutions. Additionally, in order to have this substantial impact, we also had to think and innovate a lot around our fundraising strategies, that all of the strategies that we had in place and were planning on to have in place in 2020, many of them needed to be adapted. It's also important to note that typically in a year of economic downturn, that it's actually an inverse relation that we tend to see in organizations like ours that are providing basic needs supports. And so all of the community recognizes during an economic downturn, it is an important time to come together and to have a meaningful impact in the community. And we are just so pleased that we were able to see that phenomenon take place in 2020. And our community really did come out in support of our mission and the impact that we are having. We ran a number of different campaigns, which was a new thing for us as an organization. We ran a Give Me Your Lunch Money campaign in the spring and a Response to Recovery campaign in the fall, that together those both raised over $50,000 in donations. And in December, we had our annual Colorado Gives Day campaign, and we had our best year ever and raised over $50,000 in that campaign itself. Additionally, we had to think about how we continued to stay engaged with and connected with our donors and ensure that you all were updated on all of the work that we were doing. And so many of you I know have participated in a number of the different events that we've had this year. And I really encourage those of you who might have missed one or more of these, they are all posted on our website. And so I recommend that you go and check out some of them. Our fireside chat was really our first way of trying to engage in this new format, wanting to update our community on all the work that we were doing early on in the pandemic and how that was really impacting our operations. We then launched into a series of 3 porch-side chats that were more of a deep dive into each of our impact areas of strengthening families, nurturing children, and connecting community. And it was a way to really hear more about that specific part of our work, engaging some of our program staff, sometimes our community themselves, to help explain the work that we do at Growing Home. And then in October, we had our virtual benefits, Strengthen, Nurture, Connect, where we were able for the first time ever to hold that. And that event helped us to raise over $100,000. And additionally, we were very active in fundraising from grants. We submitted over 100 applications over the course of the year, and we're really pleased to see the support of foundations, both ones that we had relationships with prior to the pandemic, as well as some new foundations that really decided to get behind COVID response. And also we're able to tap into $2.5 million of government resources from the city level to the state level to the county level and the federal level, both some existing contracts as well as the ability to tap into some of the CARES Act dollars specific for the pandemic. So in order to support all of this impact and all of the work that we did in partnering with our community to have this impact, we really needed to shore up and think about our operational support. And so first of all, in terms of COVID and all of the ever-changing knowledge of how to keep our participants and our staff and our volunteers safe, that we spent a significant amount of time really staying up to date on the guidance from CDC, from CDPHE, and developing our own Growing Home specific guidance, taking into consideration all of those experts and how we needed to adapt those for our operations to ensure that our staff, our volunteers, and our community remain safe during this time that we needed to provide in-person services. Alongside those COVID protocols that we needed to put into place, we wanted to make sure that all of our staff had the effective tools to do their jobs, whether they were in person and doing in-person services or whether they were working remotely. And so we really spent our time and our resources to ensure that everyone had the tools that they needed to be most effective in their roles. During this time, we were very mindful that we needed to support a Growing Home familia. This is how we refer to our staff at Growing Home, because they are the heart of our organization, and we are a family serving the community. And so we really asked ourselves some hard questions we never had to ask ourselves before about how do we support staff to be most successful in this unprecedented time? How do we support them both personally and professionally so that they can be their best? in that many of our staff are parents to young children, we had to take that into consideration as childcare and schools closed and went remote. And we're really proud that we were able to provide the supports to our staff to be as successful as possible during this time. I'm especially proud to announce and let everyone know that we have not had to make any layoffs as an organization due to COVID. And rather, we actually have been able to grow in some strategic ways and add a few staffing positions in order to support this increased demand and increased impact that we're having in the community. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about around this year is really our financial health as an organization. And I'm so proud to let all of you know that we have ended the year in a strong financial position. Early on in the pandemic, when it wasn't clear exactly how the resources were going to flow and what the revenue was going to look like, we were really mindful on the expenses and being sure that we were being thoughtful and strategic and seeing where we might have some cost savings. And as the year went on and the resources continued to flow in different ways, then we were able to make, again, some strategic investments to ensure that we could move forward as effectively as possible. And that we'll be ending the year with positive. And we're excited in our annual report that will come out in a few months to be able to share more of the details of our financial standings. So this year of 2020 has been a really incredible year to continue this journey that we have been on as an organization over the past 3 years when I joined. And right as I joined, we were in the process of we started creating our strategic plan, which has been our North Star as an organization these past 3 years. And as I like to explain our strategic plan, it's really about finding this balance on two different areas. On one hand, we have the need and the opportunity to continue to strengthen our infrastructure and our holistic programmatic approach. And a lot of the work that we did in this area, particularly in 2018 and 2019, really poised us so well to be able to jump in early in the pandemic, recognizing where our strengths were, how we could scale up our operations, how we could adapt, because we didn't have to be thinking about some of those infrastructure pieces that we had already tackled in 2018 and 2019. We also really balanced a lot of this work with ensuring that we are always staying firmly connected to, informed by, and in partnership with our community. One of the things that's so special about Growing Home is that deep partnership with our community. And so we have been very mindful over the past 3 years, and particularly during the pandemic, to ensure that this stays front and center. So as we conclude 2020 and now we're moving into 2021, we were curious to hear from you all as our supporters and our partners and our volunteers and our staff. What are the areas of our work that you are most interested in seeing us grow as an organization? And so you should be seeing a poll popping up now with that question. And if you'll go ahead and complete that. And as those results come in, we'll be seeing those. Wonderful. Not too surprising, being that we are a mission-based organization, that many of you are most interested in seeing our programmatic impact grow most. I think secondarily supporting our staff, since that is essential for us being able to do our programmatic impact, to see that secondarily. And then those supports of partnership and fundraising coming in next. I think those closely align with, some of where we think of things as well. And so it's great to see that so many of you are in agreement on so many of those pieces. And so it's really helpful to hear from you all, our stakeholders, where you guys are interested in seeing us grow, what opportunities you see ahead for us. 2021 is actually a year of strategic planning for us. We're coming to the end of that 3-year strategic plan that we put in place in 2018. We have made substantial progress forward. And now is a really incredible time for us to kind of pause and reflect and say, the world around us has changed in ways that we never had anticipated back in 2018. And so where are we now? Where is our community now? What have we grown in? where are the areas we need to continue to improve, and what are those opportunities that just even a year ago, we wouldn't have even known were opportunities for us. And so I look forward in 2021 to engaging with many of you and our different stakeholders and connected to the organization in different ways, and to hear from you all throughout our strategic planning process. We will take a lot of that information and then really come up with a strategic plan that will guide us for 2022 and beyond. And we're looking forward to unveiling that new plan in late fall of 2021. So in conclusion, I just wanted to share how proud I am of the Growing Home team for all of the team's resilience, perseverance, and their continued commitment to the community during really a challenging and unprecedented year for us. And secondarily, I want to let all of you, our volunteers, our partners, and our supporters just know how appreciative we are to each of you for your role in all of the hard work of 2020 and in trusting in us and in partnering with us to make this substantial impact in the community. And that all of this work together has really allowed for us to continue to work towards helping and supporting strong and resilient families and thriving and equitable communities. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And now we're going to transition to a brief video.